Hi and welcome to this short video made for BCO201, the World of Work. Our work today is to get you ready for assessment task 4, which is due soon. So let's begin. So 4 things to look at today. Firstly, to analyze your task. Secondly, looking at how to structure a report. Then moving on to a section within that report, and finally a little bit on referencing. So I'm sure you're familiar with the case and your case study that you need to analyze for this task, worth 50% and due Monday, week 13, a 3,000 word task. So a case study, as its name suggests, is always based on a case, a real situation, and we have a real situation here in the background for your task. A guy called Andrew Wilkie, what happened, when, and so on. So quite a bit of background information here. And related to this, 3 questions which you'll need to answer in addressing this case study. So these 3 questions are going to be divided by you, and they're going to become headings within your report. So let's have a look though at what's required before we look at the structure. So we're going to focus on the left hand side here, the HD end rather than the pass-fail end. Let's be very ambitious. So you need to satisfy the high distinction criteria, broad research going beyond your textbook and the required readings. So do go beyond them. Don't think about how many sources do you need, but really find enough information to answer those questions well. Of course, you need to reference correctly, you need a nice report structure, which we'll look at in a minute, and of course a credible argument and effective analysis, very important in a case study. Of course, a convincing conclusion. So this is a document that you're familiar with, you've all been given this. It tells us a little bit about case studies. We know a case study is based on a real life situation that you are asked to analyze and to link to current literature and theory. So really we're dealing with 3 things. We're dealing with the details of a case, the case study, the literature or theory from your field, and also your own analysis of that. So those 3 components will hopefully be present in every section. At the bottom of the first page of this 2-page PDF is a sample report structure. Of course, you know you need your CDU cover sheet, then you'll have a title page. Before your table of contents, you need a brief executive summary, about 200 words. Then your table of contents of what I'm going to find and on which page within the report. Of course, then an introduction, your body, which will be divided into those headings that you've created from the questions. And your conclusions, your recommendations, what you've found out. So, what does a report look like? That's a good question. Let's have a look at a sample report now. It's not exactly the same as the one that you'll need to write. I think it's slightly more descriptive. However, we can see a structure here. This is thanks to Monash Uni. And so we have here, of course, all the details here from your title page. We're not having an abstract, but rather an executive summary. So a 200-word executive summary, which you can write last, because that is the brief summary of everything in your report. Okay, table of contents detailing all those subheadings that you've come up with and which page you'll find them on. Of course, we have an introduction. The introduction starts with a contextualization or background of the topic, so that's about whistleblowing. You can give some details of the case, and also what is your aim, what do you hope to find out, and what is your scope, in other words, which areas are you dealing with within this report. Of course, we're located in Australia, so we're not looking at all cases of whistleblowing in the whole world. So they're the kind of details you can have in your introduction. Moving on then to a section. So these sections are quite short. Yours will likely be longer than these. As I said, this is a more of a descriptive report, whereas yours is going to be more analytical. But what we do have in the 2 paragraphs, for example, of section 2 here, is some in-text referencing, and that's exactly what we'll expect to see in yours. Moving to the end, after the conclusion, of course, we have a reference list. So that's simple report structure. So let's move on now to go back to your task and to think about what some of those headings might be. You have 3 questions you need to answer, but some of them are multi-part questions. So if we look at question 1, we need to use a theory to assess this particular instance of whistleblowing. So perhaps that's one heading, or maybe all of it is one heading. Maybe there's 2 headings there. That's really up to you how you divide your information. We don't want the sections getting way too long. Okay, this question 2 relates to an act, so perhaps that could be your heading, and also a quote below which you're going to discuss. So again, the way you divide those questions into headings, it's totally up to you. Let's have a look at what a section might look like. Your heading will not be called heading, but rather will be some element of one of those questions. And what I have in this section of the report, similar to what we saw before, we have some in-text citations, name and year, and I also have some details of a case, and finally I end with my own evaluation or analysis of what could be said or could be concluded in this little section that I've written. So 3 things will be in most of your sections of this report. That is some theory from your field, some elements or details of the case study, and it could be the one you've been given, it could be a different one or an extra case, and importantly your evaluation. So of course we know you need to answer 3 questions. You need to come down one way or the other. So those 3 components should appear in most sections of this report. Of course we're going to reference correctly throughout, and we'll be relying on the Harvard Referencing Guide. You will be using journal articles in addition to your textbook and those prescribed readings as well, maybe even newspaper articles. So all of those different sources are dealt with in the Harvard Referencing Guide. I have here a sample for a journal article. So surname, comma, initial and surname, comma, initial year, a title, then we have a journal name in italics, the volume number, pages, date you viewed, and the database. Of course, in text, I would also show the names of those authors where I used their idea. Of course, in text, it's going to be just name and year. Again, that's from the Harvard Referencing Guide, the link there. Any further questions you have about this task should be asked of your lecturers or course coordinator on LearnLine. Do so as soon as possible. And finally, if you need further assistance, or perhaps you'd like someone to have a look at your nearly complete draft, feel free to come to ALSP and make a booking here, or you can drop in and see us, and there's details there. So we'll be really happy to help you out, and we wish you all the best of luck with this assignment and with your studies at CDU. Bye.